Welcome back to the show. This is your host, David Yanis. We're here in 2013 with St. Louis. We're in Atlanta, and we're here with Miss Tia McCollors. How are you doing, darling?
I'm doing excellent.
Did I do okay in your last name?
You did. Tia McCollors. That's right.
What are they? How do most people try and pronounce
McCollors,
it?
McCollors. Anything close.
She's Irish. Her name's McCollors.
Anything close, I answer to. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then we'll go with that.
Yeah. My husband gave me that name, so I'm kind of stuck with it.
She's reading a book, Friday Night Love. Now, this isn't your first book, is it?
No, it's not my first book.
How many books have you written?
This will be my 7th novel. Yes.
7th. But this is your with Whitaker.
Yes,
this is your first one with Whitaker. House, but she's had 7 before. She's very successful. In fact, we've heard some recent success on Amazon. And tell us about that.
Well, it's been doing great, just as far as being in the higher rankings or whatever. I think people have just really been drawn to the book because of the subject matter.
Okay.
And things like that, which I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, so I just am excited about God continuing to bless, bless the my writings, because it's all for Him anyway.
Tell them about the genre.
This is, it's women's fiction, but it's also romance. It has romance elements in it. So people who love romance would love this book.
I had Tia on the show, and you'll know that just about a few weeks ago, maybe a couple of months ago,
right? Yeah,
maybe like that. Mm-hmm. She was on RevMedia TV, and then I think we didn't do the Skype, did we?
No, we did not Skype.
So this is our Skype right here.
Yes.
And one thing I loved about her was her heart. For you, you have a heart for seeing God just in everything you're doing. Mm-hmm. Just tell them a little bit about yourself for those that may have not seen.
Okay. Well, I'm Tia McCollors. I always say I'm the mother of 3 very energetic children who keep me young, and the wife of one, the wife of one. And so, I don't write full time. I tell people all the time, I don't write full time. I'm a mother full time. I'm a wife full time, and writing comes in between. That's just the ministry that God has blessed me with. So I just find joy in just doing what God has blessed me to do, and just being there for my family. Basically, that's my main ministry.
Now she's had a background of faith, and tell us about your background.
Well, my background of faith is from the time I was born. That's where I've been. I always tell people I don't have this big testimony about how I came to Jesus.
That's right.
It's because I don't think I was given the choice. It's like you came out of the womb, you're going to be with Jesus today.
No matter what.
No matter what, yes. So I grew up in my grandmother's house, which means on Sunday mornings we were there. We were there for Sunday school. We were there for worship service. We were there for after worship service. We were there for revivals. Mm-hmm. Anytime the church doors open, we were there.
Yep.
And so, of course, you grow up and you test and dabble, and you go away. You don't always walk in the precepts that you've been taught, but train up a child in the way they should go.
That's right.
And they'll return to it. And so I never really left. I was always scared. People, I would say, well, you go to parties. Yeah, I go to party, but I would always be the one who would be scared that Jesus is going to come back.
Yeah, and I was usually at the party because I was the one driving back because everybody else was drunk.
Right. Well, I never did get drunk, but I did get my dance on. But but other than that, I'm just always been with the Lord, always been walking with the Lord.
And God sets you apart. Mm-hmm. I mean, he puts you apart when you're like, your heart's like that.
Yeah.
And He has a plan for you.
Right.
And now you're walking in some of that plan.
Right.
There's more. I can tell there's more in you. There's a preacher in you. There's a lot of stuff in you. There's a lot of stuff in this woman still. I can see that in you.
Oh, wow.
You have that draw. You can talk to people.
Really?
Yeah, I can see it in you.
Well, thank you. I never would have said that.
And then now you're writing, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, what got you started in writing?
Well, I was a journalism major, so I've always written before. Even when I was growing up, I would be the one who would always enter writing contests and win. Mm-hmm. When I first had my house, my grandmother came to my house. I bought a new house, and she came with all of my report cards from kindergarten. And when I look through them, they would always say things like, Tia is such a creative writer, and things like that. I'm like, wow, it's amazing that teachers and people who see you when you're young always see the gift maybe before you realize it. So I went to school actually to be a journalism major, and came out and did some public relations work. But it wasn't until I was laid off from a job in 1999, and I was really asking God, Lord, show me my purpose for life. Show me the thing that you want me to do to advance your kingdom. And I mean, that was during the time that I got laid off. I'm like, Lord, you could have told me a different way. You didn't have to lay me off for me to hear clearly from you. But yeah,
send me an email, Lord.
Right, send me an email, Lord, next time. But I was really able during that time to really seek Him, and God showed me He was going to marry my love for reading, which I loved to do, and my love for writing, and I was going to write books that ultimately, even though they would entertain, would bring glory to Him. So that's what I've been doing ever since my first book came out in 2005. So
now,
it's been a while.
Were you always in the same genre as far as fiction and novels and romance?
Right. Well, this is kind of my first kind of romancy book. Some of my other books have romance elements, but they weren't as strong. Tell
us some of the titles of the other ones.
My first book was called A Heart of Devotion.
Okay.
It was followed by Zora's Cry, The Truth About Love, The Last Woman Standing, and Stepping into the Good Life. And then I had a devotion called If These Shoes Could Talk. And between that time, I have written stories for different anthologies and things of that nature. So.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Now, tell us about the story about Friday Night Love.
Okay. Well, Friday Night Love is the story of Roman and Zinja Maxwell. And like most women say, I'll say most women, I'll say like I've said, and like the women I've known said, if my husband were to cheat on me, that's it. That's the deal breaker.
That's a deal breaker.
That's the deal breaker. I'm not going
back. That's the clause that there's no escaping from.
Right, there's no escaping from. And Zinja Maxwell has said that herself.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately, that happens to her. And she puts him out. Her husband, Roman, she puts him out, and she's saying never to return again. And it's been a year. A year has passed. And Roman knew he was wrong when he did it. You know, sometimes you never expect to walk through temptation's door, but he fell for the temptation. And from the get-go, he knew this was wrong for me. But he left because she put him out. He returns a year later because he realizes that everything he ever wanted, he already had. So he's come back, and he's determined that he's going to put this family back together and this marriage back together. And Zinja is mad because she is ready. She has decided she's moving on from him. But then she's mad because her heart is still with her husband. She loves her husband. So this is the story of this marriage's reconciliation back together.
Wow.
Yeah.
So wouldn't people read the book? What do you want them to get out of this?
I want them to get that marriage can be work. But even if you have dealt with acts of infidelity in your marriage, that does not have to be the death of your marriage, And for some people, that is the end of your marriage, but it doesn't have to be, because God can definitely blow life back into that marriage.
Amen.
He can resuscitate it, and by God's grace and His forgiveness, it can be greater, even at a greater glory than it was before.
That's a blessing, and that's what I was telling everybody yesterday. I was at a book signing. Tia came across the front of it, and we had I think a radio lady was talking to me, getting one of my books, and I go, "Oh, you got to have Tia too." I pointed to Tia. You have to have her. And she's like, and I'm like, because she is one of the very few fiction authors, maybe even the best fiction author that I interviewed, that has a lot of heart and wants to talk about the heart and wants to talk about change. Everyone wants to change people, but she's willing to talk about it. It's hard to get fiction writers to talk, really, honestly.
Really?
And this, it's been very, very difficult. But I really believe her heart, and I can believe that she puts her characters, each of the characters, she's taken them through something. And there's an end, there's a beginning and an end to what's happening to each of those characters, and they're just not there to say hi and open a door.
Right. Because I always tell people, I'm like, we are such imperfect people, but the great thing about it is we serve a perfect God.
Absolutely.
So I just take the people who are just like me, who, go through different circumstances and situations, but who have a heart to follow God. And I put them in those situations and say, okay, now this is where your faith has to work.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Now tell everybody how they can get your book.
You can get my book at any of your major booksellers or bookstores online, but you can find all information by going to my website, www.tiamccollors.com, or Tia Writes, like Tia Writes books, tiawrites.com, and you can find any ordering information about the book.
Absolutely. Now we got about a minute left. I want you to do your
gosh.
plan. I'm messing with her. I want you to encourage someone that may be going through something.
Okay.
Like your book.
Okay.
That way they get an idea of what it's about.
Right. I just want to encourage you, if you are dealing with a circumstance where you have been maybe just going uphill in your marriage. I said there are different seasons in people's marriages. Sometimes you have on your dancing shoes and you can dance through marriage, but there's a couple of times where you have to put on those hiking boots because it's been a long climb up. I just want to encourage you that God is indeed with you, that if you put God at the head of your life and at the head of your marriage, that He will bind that like a threefold cord, and just begin to speak the word over your marriage, begin to speak the word over your spouse, because God's word does not return void. It accomplishes the thing that it was sent for. So the best thing you can do is put your faith into action, put your words into action, put your love into action for your spouse, and just watch how you can go through the fire and come out with no smell of smoke.
Amen. Thank you so much for being on the show. Give me your website one more time.
Yes, that's www.tiawrites.com.
Tia Writes.
Writes. I write books.
Oh, W-R-I-T-S.
W-R-I-T-E-S.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I picture. There could be two ways.
Right. Tia Writes.
Tia Writes.
But I am right. But
Tia's right. Most
but I do
her
right.
husband would tell you that all the time.
Right.
God bless you again. Thanks for being on the show. We'll be back with another great guest.